The Dentalpreneur Podcast. Okay, doctor, it's time to put down that handpiece. You're listening to the show dedicated to helping dentists get their lives back. It's time to decrease your stress, increase your profitability, and regain your passion. Now introducing your host, Dr. Mark Costas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Dentalpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mark Costas. How are you doing, my friends? I hope you're doing great out there today. My voice is a little bit strained. I have been a road warrior as of late. I've been about 6 different cities in about 5 weeks. Most recently, we are in Frisco, Texas. That was last weekend for our Elite Practice Mastermind meeting. And it was a great turnout. We had over almost 250 of our awesome mastermind members there. But a lot of talking, a lot of socializing, a lot of QT with some of my favorite people in the world. But my voice is tired. But I'm rallying because today I have a new friend that I'm going to be interviewing, and she has a very interesting backstory. And I think that you guys are going to enjoy hearing more about what she does. This is a topic that is very top of mind, especially having just come off a mastermind meeting where people are talking about some of their challenges within their dental practices and some of their immediate goals. And a lot of that has to do with humans, because dentistry is a very human-dependent business. Today, we want to welcome Holli Perez to the podcast. She's the co-founder, CMO, and lead recruiter of Direct Dental, a staffing marketplace that connects dental practices with professionals for permanent and temporary roles. With a background as a regional manager for DSOs, she has helped fill thousands of vacancies nationwide. Holli also speaks nationally, partnering with Henry Schein, ADOM, and other dental organizations. Holli, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yes, we got to chat just a teeny bit in the pre-interview, and you live in my favorite city, San Diego, California, and you've also lived in some of my other favorite regions of California, Central Coast. So I think we have a lot to talk about today. But first, I would love to hear how you got involved with dentistry in the first place, and then I want to go specifically into what it is that you do at Direct Dental.
Yeah, I fell into dentistry, oddly enough. I had started my career in outside sales for telecommunication companies. And I had a friend that was working for Clear's Choice Dental Implants, if you've heard of them.
Yeah, of course.
And every day she was talking about how much she loved her job, how great it was. She was being promoted. I said, get me that job, and fell into dentistry and absolutely loved it. Worked there for several years. I still think it was probably one of my favorite jobs I've ever had.
Oh, really?
And then started working as a regional manager for a smaller DSO, and was with them for quite a while. And then one day they laid off all the regional managers, and I found myself unemployed for the first time since I was about 15 years old, and knew somebody who was trying to get rid of a contingency recruitment dental staffing agency. I called them up, said, hey, I'll take over the business if you're open to it. I did. Quickly learned how much I hated contingency dental staffing and learned how much my clients hated contingency dental staffing. So made my husband quit his job in hospital communication technology sales. And we built out this platform with our partner, Frank, who's our web developer at the time. And just try to figure out, how do we cut out the middleman? We know dental offices don't want to have to pay a bunch of money just to staff their offices. We didn't want to chase dental offices down to pay us when they hired someone that we worked with. So we built out a platform that let them get connected directly. And it's been one of the best, most rewarding careers I've ever could have imagined having.
That is cool. That is cool. Okay, so let's clarify a few things. What does outside sales for Clear Choice look like? What is an outside salesperson? Who are you calling on?
So for Clear Choice, no, that was basically a glorified treatment coordinator for Clear Choice dental implants.
Gotcha.
So they set up all my appointments. The people came in. These were people with just completely failing mouths. Clear Choice does all on 4 procedures, and basically got people to agree to $50,000 worth of treatments, which was absolutely life-changing and so rewarding. But the outside sales I did for the communications companies was basically knocking on 50 businesses a day, telling them about the product and getting them to sign up. It was very grueling, but it was fun.
That's awesome. So, I mean, sales is very well rewarded, right? And there's a wide spectrum of people that do a lot with it and make a very comfortable living, and some people that just can't cut it and can't handle rejection, or for whatever reason, they don't have the sales gift. But it feels to me like if you do have that gift of sales, you're going to be taken care of for the rest of your life. You can go in any different direction really that you want to, because there's always people that are looking for very, very good salespeople. Sales makes business, the business world churn. So without good salespeople, there isn't a whole lot of business happening. So let's transition into kind of your history with your current company. So did you purchase this company from somebody else or just take it over?
So it was Direct Dental Staffing at the time, which no longer exists as it was before. So it was a contingency dental staffing model. So they didn't get paid unless they staffed. They did temps and permanent placements as well. And I basically took that over. They owed so much money left on the loan, and then they basically said, if you can pay off the loan, it's yours. So I had that, but in March of 2020, we woke up one morning and everybody was calling to cancel all of their temps, cancel all of their open jobs with us, which was extremely scary. But ultimately it was fine because we had already been building out Direct Dental, which was technically a brand new company, similar name. It was just, we dropped the staffing part of it. And we had built that out so offices could post their jobs. Their jobs will then go across all of the major job boards for them. So they're posting with us, but their jobs are still ending up on Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Google, Monster, Career Builder. And then there's no placement fees on any of the applicants. So Direct Dental Staffing completely dissolved due to COVID. But Direct Dental was able to then grow and thrive and become what it is today. That's
amazing. Okay, cool. So yes, humans. I kind of alluded to this in the intro. Humans are hard, and ever since that kind of that turning point, it seems as though, and that is March of 2020, just like you said, that is when things changed forever for dentistry, for dental staffing, for medical jobs in general. There was mass exodus from the medical profession. They say greater than 20% of the dental profession, as far as auxiliary workers, left and never came back. And it doesn't feel like we've really gotten our mojo back as a profession yet. Every time I talk to a dentist, their number one frustration or challenge is humans. Lack of people with experience that are willing to work for a reasonable wage, or just lack of warm bodies in general that are willing to come into the practice, whether or not they have any experience or not. So explain a little bit about your platform and how it is that you guys effectively match seekers of dental workers with seekers of jobs.
Yeah, and that's kind of twofold. So as you mentioned, there is such a lack of professionals in the field right now. So our kind of mindset when we built out the platform itself is, let's cast the widest net possible. It's just like sales. This is a numbers game. The more people you can get your job in front of, the more applicants you're going to have to choose from. And then that's going to hopefully get you the best possible candidate for the position. The other side of things is dentists, they come out of school and they know dentistry very, very well, which is great. But there's a human aspect to finding people that want to not only work in your office, but stay with your office long term. So the other thing that I really like about what we do is we we consider ourselves consultants in a fashion. So if we see, you're just having bodies come in and out of your practice every few months, which is fine for us because you're coming back to us to staff your job, but there's something going on there. So we like to take a look at, what's your onboarding process look like? What are you doing within your practice to retain staff? And kind of give them the tips and tricks that they need to not only find people, but stay staffed. Because if you want to grow your practice, you have to keep good employees with you as long as possible.
Yeah, that is such a key element of the whole kind of puzzle. So, as consultants, I think retention would probably be a big thing. And then also allowing people to have a good experience as they join your practice, right? Just like you said, onboarding is key, onboarding, training. That's something that we talk about all the time. It's like just because somebody's good at their position doesn't mean they're going to be good at training you. Right. So that's a huge thing. Sometimes you have to train the trainers and you have to onboard people effectively to onboard other people. How big a deal is turnover nowadays? Has it gotten worse? Have you noticed since this kind of line in the sand, which was March of 2020? It seems as though like the whole group think of working for somebody else changed significantly during that period of time. So people are willing to tolerate less discomfort in a position and are constantly kind of sniffing around or looking over the shoulder of their current supervisor to maybe a better opportunity in a different office or a different industry altogether. How have you seen that personally?
Yeah, you hit it on the head. There's definitely lots of people say it's, people just aren't loyal in this day and age. I think, they kind of also realize, employers aren't necessarily loyal to them either. So they're out to do what's right for themselves. You can't really get mad at people for that. We see a lot, especially with the dental assistants, cost of living is extremely expensive. A lot of the auxiliary staff within the practice, they're living paycheck to paycheck. So we find that they are chasing that dollar. They are looking for, a better rate of pay at all times, just because it's very hard to live right now and be able to afford things. So you see that. And then you've got the hygienists that a lot of them are very worn out. There's not systems in place to keep them from being burnt out. Their back hurts, their neck hurts. They need that flexibility to take care of themselves, which I completely understand. So they are also just wanting to be a part of practices where they're not just, oh, I'm worth this much because of this is what my hygiene column produces. They're looking to be a part of practices where they're honored as providers. They're given the tools to not only take care of themselves, but their patients to a better capacity than just coming in and being a teeth cleaner. They're out there to what's best for them. And when people are looking to employ and retain staff, they need to be focusing on that. Yes, you got to hire the best person for your practice, but what are you providing for them, for you to be the best practice for them to work in? And a lot of dental offices have not switched to that focus just yet, which is why we're seeing this constant turnover.
Yeah. Yeah. Good insights. So when you put, your consultant hat on and you're like, the retention is a problem in your practice. Obviously it's not a bad thing for you because you're finding the next batch of people, but the right thing to do is to try to figure out the root cause of this turnover. Is it just because people are looking for that extra dollar, or is there something inherently off with your culture and the way that you're talking maybe to your team, the whole work environment in general? So when you have that kind of consultant hat on, what are you looking for, and what types of advice are you giving to these practices that have abnormally high turnover?
It's very hard because, you ask the doctor, is something going on? And they're like, oh, I don't think so. The nice advantage I have is, okay, well, I can reach out to your candidates and ask them, what's going on. So I had one doctor in particular where we just couldn't get him to hire anybody no matter what. And the constant trend we were seeing was the candidates were saying he was very passive aggressive in the way he spoke to them. We have some where the doctor's just rude to their employees, and so they don't stay very long. So yes, people are looking for better pay, but I think ultimately, if you're treating your people right and they know that there's upward trajectory within your practice, they're going to find a reason to stay and not be looking constantly for the better rate of pay.
Sure.
I always tell my clients, especially for dental assistants, have upward trajectory for them. So they can start off as a dental assistant. They stay with you 2 years. You'll assist them in getting their RDA or their EF, whatever your state requires. They stay with you for another 2 or 3 years. They become the lead dental assistant. They stay with you for another few years. They become the back office manager. Just have plans to work them up within your practice and be able to increase their rate of pay and increase their duties. People will want to work with you and stay long-term if you have those systems in place.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, really good advice. In fact, there's a pretty popular study out there that found that 60% of people that leave jobs don't do so because of monetary reasons. It's because of culture issues, lack of, future upward, trajectory, like the ability to move into a higher position, personal development issues or lack thereof. They don't feel heard or important or seen or relevant in their position. So those are kind of some of the reasons that people they found in this particular study left their positions. So with that kind of insight, it's like, okay, not necessarily paying people more than anybody else in the workforce. The vast majority of people are leaving because they don't feel like it's a good work environment. So those are some of the things that are difficult to spot if you're in it every single day as, a practice owner or even an office manager. But I think that if you take the time to step back and say, like, really, how are these people feeling in their positions? How are we treating them? What's communication look like? Are we providing them with the resources necessary for them to be successful? Are we giving them opportunity to move up in our organization? Is there any room for upward mobility in an organization? Those are some of the things that people, I think, need to keep in mind in order to maintain that kind of long and loyal team. So maybe you could help us with sharing the model of your actual company. What does it look like from a user experience perspective? So if a doctor is looking for somebody, how do they utilize your service? If a team member is unhappy in their current position, how do they utilize your services? From both sides, what does it look like?
Yeah. So we are nationwide. We have clients and candidates and temps in all 50 states. And we essentially have tiers of service, if you will. So the majority of our clients, they use what's called our essential plan. It's 100% self-serve. It's a flat monthly rate, or they can do a quarterly or annual plan depending on their hiring needs. And that gives them unlimited temp requests, unlimited job postings, unlimited candidate searches and messaging. It's all right there available to them when they post a job. Again, it'll go across all of the major job boards for them. So they're only going one place to manage their jobs, yet they're essentially getting posted on hundreds of job boards.
Cool.
And no matter where those candidates apply from, it gets sent right to their Direct Dental dashboard so they can monitor and track all of their applicants from one central space. And then we have upgraded services where they could work with our recruiters in that kind of consulting type arena where we're writing the job posts up for them. We're heavily sponsoring the jobs. We're marketing it on social media. We're going into LinkedIn and messaging it to possible candidates, reaching out to the local schools, screening the candidates for them. So we have those services available to those offices that they want that extra hand holding and support, and that's definitely there for them.
That's awesome. That's very cool.
Yeah.
What are people doing wrong when they are seeking somebody? What are some of the common errors as far as like the job post, like seeking, dental assistant with 19 years dental experience? Like what are some of the common errors, and what advice could you give for people to have a higher likelihood of getting people to actually engage with their ad?
Well, how much time do we have?
This is like the crux of your business, right? Yeah.
So, well, you can kind of say, okay, what are they doing? What are they doing right? I guess, if you will. So the ones that are doing it right, they have a onboarding program in place to make sure that once they onboard someone, they retain them, and then they're doing all the right things. They've done some soul searching, put systems in place to not only onboard to retain, but then retain long term. And I go into that in a lot of my blog posts and everything like that. Mm-hmm. Next, they're the ones that are doing it right. They're taking the time to write a job post that's compelling, and that has a couple of things. They're researching what each position wants. We know hygienists want some certain things, dental assistants want certain things, dentists want certain things. So they're researching to find out what those dentists want and making sure that that's very big, bold, and clear in the job posting, because that's going to entice the applicants to then see the job and then apply to it. They're also researching what the job boards like, because a lot of people don't realize that job boards, they work off of search engine optimization, just like Google or Yahoo does. Interview with them, want to apply. So you really have to take the time to write a compelling job post for that. The ones that are doing it right, they're not making applicants jump through hoops to interview with them. So they keep the interview process very short, sweet, and simple. And they're moving through the interview process quickly. We see a lot of people, they'll find a candidate that they love, but they took a week to give them the offer. And then by then they've accepted another position. So the ones that are doing it right, they have a very nice, brief interview process, and they get that job offer out to the applicants that they love as soon as possible.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So are you placing associates as well? Dental associates? Mm-hmm. Okay.
If it's anything in dentistry, so dental sterilization techs all the way up to specialists, associates, everything in between.
So how about areas that are more difficult to staff than others? Are you seeing people being successful with certain fringe benefits or offerings, or even like signing bonuses and stuff? Like, how are people getting professionals to the areas that, aren't necessarily an urban area or wouldn't be considered a super desirable place to live from the general public?
Yeah, we have a lot of clients in those rural areas that couldn't find people for a long time. And then they're like, okay, I finally found someone through you guys. So I think it's twofold. If you're in a rural area, you cannot just go to your local job board and post the job and hope that you're going to get applicants. You really have to be active in how you're seeking candidates. So as many job boards as possible, reaching out to all of the local schools, going on to social media, marketing the job, joining all of the Facebook groups in your area for dentistry, messaging people on LinkedIn, and then offering those fringe benefits. Relocation bonuses are huge, especially if you're looking for an associate or a specialist. Those are huge. Hygienists, in the rural areas, unfortunately, you got to kind of have a very competitive pay rate in order to get their attention, because most hygienists are happy in their positions and they're not looking to make a change unless there's something truly, truly compelling. So for that, I would definitely say make sure your pay rate's competitive, but you got to be in as many places as possible, leave no stone unturned, and then yes, offer those fringe benefits like you mentioned, especially relocation bonuses.
Got it. Okay. There seems to be a supply and demand situation right now with hygienists and dental practices. And right now, I mean, if you're looking at either a sine wave or a pendulum swinging from left to right now, it seems like the pendulum is definitely in the favor of the hygienist right now. I have dental practices that, I was a business owner in California for a lot of years, and I talked to the people that purchased my practices just a year and a half ago, and they're paying $70+ an hour to get a hygienist with very little experience to come into their dental practices. So it seems as though it's definitely the market is definitely in favor of the hygienists right now. What do you think the disconnect is between hygiene and practice owners, aside from this whole like kind of supply and demand situation? It feels like there's not enough in the marketplace to begin with. So the chips are stacked in their favor there. But is there another disconnect? Is there something else that doctors can do to kind of bridge this gap of how do we see eye to eye a little bit better?
Yes. Like you had mentioned in 2020, a lot of them left the field. And ever since then, there has been this definite supply and demand where the hygienists are just in extreme demand. But there's a couple of things. I employ a lot of dental hygienists that left the field, so I'm always asking them, why. And a lot of them they are providers. They're not producers, and they don't really want to be viewed as producers in the practice. So I'm always telling my clients, especially now that we're seeing their pay rates so high, it's no longer that 35% of hygiene production. You're paying them beyond that in a lot of cases to have a hygienist in your practice. So putting systems in place just to make your hygiene more productive, give them credit for when, they're doing really awesome co-diagnosing and sending a lot of procedures into the doctor's chair, that should be recognized and compensated for. And it often does not get seen that way, that they are feeding the doctor's schedule. And then investing in technology and products that are going to make their lives easier. They're, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of them that I talked to left the field just because their bodies physically couldn't handle it. And these are young women, early 30s that are saying my body just couldn't take it anymore. And I had to cut back to 2 days a week max in order to just feel comfortable. So if you're putting products and systems in place to kind of help their body and their ailments, you're going to see that they're a lot happier and they're going to want to stay within your practice with that. I think another thing is just being upfront about the financial situation of employing hygienists. Lots of them, they don't recognize what the practice is doing financially because they're not part of those conversations. And I've heard a lot of my clients that do have that conversation where this is what the insurance is paying us for you to do these procedures, and this is why your pay rate is where it's at. Just having that conversation and being upfront with them about it, we see that those offices that do that have hygienists that stay long-term and tend to be happier within their organization because they're part of those conversations.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. A lot of people do feel uncomfortable with that conversation, that financial conversation. I think that it's really important nowadays. It's like, hey, listen, if you are doing a typical, recall exam with a prophy and 2 bite wings, like here's what we're getting paid for it, and here's what you're demanding per hour. And you have to remember that there's also, support staff up front that are filling your schedule. There's rent for that particular operatory per hour. There's, heating and cooling. There's, utilities. There's overhead in addition to what we're getting compensated and what we're paying you. So we're negative $35 an hour every single day that every single hour that you're working. And sometimes that just has to be said. A reasonable hygienist, I think, would say, oh, that's not really sustainable. I understand, but sorry for you, the guy down the street's going to pay me, $6 more per hour. But you did touch on something that I would love to talk a little bit more about. Do you have ideas? Because there is, this whole idea that maybe hygiene from now on is going to be a loss leader. Maybe we will lose $20 an hour for every prophy that happens on a particular PPO insurance. I won't mention any, but everybody knows the big couple that are really, really bad with preventative care and reimbursement, et cetera. So do you have any ideas for like co-diagnosis and how we could potentially reward a hygienist if they're a great co-diagnoser and they're teeing up great treatment and their case acceptance is super high? Like, what does that look like? How can we compensate them without even adding more to the overhead and rewarding that skill set, which you and I are salespeople, we know that is really, really important to be able to, ethically sell them on what needs to be done. And I know that you've seen this if you've worked with DSOs. There are really effective co-diagnosers, and there's others that don't sell anything or preheat the patient at all, and the doctor has to come in and try to do all the heavy lifting. Like if you have a great co-diagnoser in the hygiene department, it makes your life so much easier, and the productivity in the office can really, really significantly increase with the right person sitting in that seat. So how can we compensate them for being good at that?
Yeah, and you need to hit the nail on the head. When you're interviewing hygienists, you really need to be focusing on what are the conversations that they're having when they're cleaning the patient's mouth. Are they pointing out, okay, there's a dark spot here, I'm definitely pointing this out to the doctor? Because if they're not doing that, exactly like you said, the doctor's going to go in cold, and then the patient's going to be like, what are you talking about? There's something wrong with this too. The hygienist was just in there for an hour and didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to make it very hard to get that patient into the doctor's chair. I just wrote an article on this. I'll send it to you when we're done, about how to maximize profit in your hygiene column. Not just in the hygiene column, but how to send that over to the doctor's chair.
Awesome.
But one of my favorite processes is where you have a dollar amount that your hygienist is responsible for sending into production for either the doctor or, whitening trays, Arrestin, or if there's treatment that was already on the schedule and they got the patient to agree to it, and they're monitoring how much treatment they're sending over to the doctor's chair.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're letting the doctor know at the end of every day, okay, today I sent over $3,000 worth of treatment for you. And then if you want to set up a bonus system on that's totally up to you. Or if you're just like, okay, you're getting paid $70 an hour, it is up to you to make sure you're sending $3,000 over to doctor's schedule every single day in order to be worth that $70 an hour.
Yeah.
So it's up to you if you want to do it in a bonus fashion, or if you're just saying, I'm paying you X amount of dollars, this is what you need to send over beyond just your hygiene production.
Got it.
And monitor it accordingly.
Got it. I want to get a little philosophical with you here. So like you are working with probably lots of different age groups in the workforce, potentially several different generations maybe. Have you noticed different behaviors and different preferences per kind of generation? A lot of people complain about Gen Zers or Gen Xers or like the whatever they call the young generation nowadays. I think it's Gen Z. So what have you seen as far as kind of generalizations on their preferences for jobs in the workplace?
Yeah, I feel like the youngest generation always gets a bad rap. I'm an older millennial, but for the longest time I would try to hide that I was a millennial because everybody hated on millennials for so long.
Yeah.
And now it's Gen Z getting that hate. And they are a different animal, but so is every generation. But the thing with Gen Z that we've got to understand is there is a lot of vacancies in the dental field, and the only way we're going to fill those is by bringing in these Gen Zers into our practice and training them accordingly. We find that the Gen Z, they are very passionate about a lot of things, and they want to work at a place where their passions line up. So people that care about the environment or about equality. So when you're writing up a job post, maybe talk about that. They want to work for a mentor, not a boss. So taking it on where you're going to take them under your wing and you care about them professionally and personally, and you're going to set systems in place where they can grow within your practice. They're looking for those type of things as opposed to, this is a job, I get paid, this is my boss. What we also have to remember is Gen Z has more job opportunities than any other generation. They can come out of school and they can go work for Uber. If they don't like their job today, they can quit and start doing DoorDash deliveries. So it makes that loyalty very hard. But if you can figure out a way to connect with them personally, let them know that you do truly care about them, they're going to probably be some of the best employees that you ever had. They are incredibly smart. They're very honest. They'll let you know if you're doing something wrong. They'll let you know if you're doing something right. They're very tech savvy, so they're going to keep your practice up on all of the latest and greatest technologies that are out there. So they're just going to bring such a great, a great opportunity to your practice by having them employed there with you. But you got to learn how to manage them correctly.
Manage and communicate with them correctly, and what makes them tick. It is very interesting. People always do kind of hammer the youngest generation and compare them. It's very interesting. Now that I've got a few decades under my belt, I've noticed that I do that myself, and I have to catch myself.
I'll be honest. I was hating on Gen Z for a while because they don't show up to interviews and there's things of that nature. And I learned that a lot of that's anxiety. It's like 60% of Gen Z has been diagnosed with anxiety in some fashion, which is just massive. So I did an ebook on them and learned so much about the Gen Z employees and their potential, and they'll be great. You just got to meet them on their level.
Do you think that some of that has to do with, and this is just speculation, I'm sure, but do you think that some of that has to do with like overprotective, like helicopter type parents that didn't allow them to experience any challenges, and there's eighth place trophies, and so they're not used to disappointment, so that leads to some anxiety when they're released out into the real world, and their parents and their coaches can't protect them from the outside world?
I definitely think there's some of that. With my boys, like I kind of, whenever we're with friends and the kids start fighting amongst themselves and the parents try to step in, I'm like, let them work this out, because as they grow older, they're going to need to learn how to work out uncomfortable conversations without a mom stepping in and breaking it up. I also think phones have a lot to do with it. It's just them being on their phones all the time. They miss out on a lot of social interactions that they should have had during their teenage years. So I do believe parents stepping in, not letting them figure things out on their own. And then the fact that we just shove these devices in their hands at 13, 14 years old when they're supposed to learn how to do a lot of things socially is not doing these kids any favors, unfortunately.
I think you nailed it, Holly. I really do. I mean, attention span is very difficult. I mean, you look at,
they have the shortest attentions. It's 1.3 seconds that you have to grab their attention or they're moving into something new.
And that's because of devices and social media, right? And gosh, you really nailed it there. Okay, awesome. So one last thing, I wanted to just kind of pick your brain. Tell us about, in the trenches DSO regional management, what that was like. And I think it's interesting that they removed this particular DSO, don't have to mention them, obviously, but this particular DSO removed all the regional managers. I think that's very interesting. Did they grow too fast? Was there a cash flow issue? And what was it like kind of working?
So that DSO is completely gone. So they broke apart, sold off all of their practices. So I do think it was a leadership thing. And it was every single day was something new. I was getting a call to go fire someone. It was just unfortunately very poorly ran. So I think the CEO literally woke up one morning and was like, I'm going to fire all of the regional managers. They called me like 2 weeks later and tried to offer me a job back. And I was like, no, absolutely not. Yeah. So that was definitely just a leadership thing. But working for a DSO was interesting. It was challenging. You'd get a call and they tell you, hey, this doctor's not producing as much as they should. You need to go talk to them. And I'm like, I'm not a dentist. I don't have any right to be telling anybody how to diagnose. And we see that today. A lot of reasons dentists are afraid to go work for, because I work with several DSOs to staff them. And a lot of people are like, well, who's going to be my boss? Who am I going to be reporting to, somebody with just a college degree, or am I going to be reporting to a doctor? So if you are from a DSO and if you're listening to this, my advice would be to just try to make sure that all of your doctors roll up to a doctor. You'll get a lot further with your staffing needs.
That's awesome. Good advice. All right, Holli, that was a great conversation. Thank you so much. I can't wait to start reading some of your blogs. It sounds like you are a prolific content creator, and some of the topics that you're writing about, I could use a little bit more education in. What's the best way for people to engage with your company? Is there some sort of a discovery call, or how does the process work for starting to work with you guys?
Yeah, we're always available. So you can email me directly, Holli, HOLLI at directdental.com. But the majority of our clients just go straight to directdental.com and sign up on their own. It's a very simple, easy process. But if you do want your job to have some extra attention, you want to work with one of our recruiters, go ahead and email me and I can get you sent in the right direction.
It's a very interesting business model. There's a lot of job board type things and aggregators that kind of push your ad to lots of different places. But this kind of done with you model is very interesting. I find that could be very, very helpful for people. Because I mean, if you're like, okay, yes, your ad will be shown all over the place, but if you don't know how to write the ad and you don't kind of know the buttons to push as far as emotionally and security and wage wise and what to offer people in different areas of the country, I think that you're kind of lost, and having people that understand those nuances would be very helpful, I feel like.
Yeah, and all of our employees come from the dental field. They were either office managers, assistants, hygienists, and they're all highly trained. So even if you choose to go on your own and post your jobs through the platform directly, still reach out to us, show us your templates. We will happily rewrite your ad for you to make sure you're hitting all of those points that you just mentioned. So even when you're doing things on your own through our platform, our recruiters are all still very much available to you to help you out and make sure you're having success. So it doesn't matter which service option you go with, we're here to support you. And dentists need that, because again, they're, especially if they haven't had to hire recently, it's such a different animal than it was in 2019. So getting that extra help and hand-holding, I think, is absolutely necessary for these dental offices to get staffed in this day and age.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Holli. Hopefully we can do this again. And I would love to connect with you off air and find out more about, your blogs and some of the things that you like to talk about. Maybe we can collaborate in other ways.
I would love that. That would be great.
Ladies and gentlemen, the co-founder of Direct Dental, Holli Perez.